What happens when a liberal musician tries to humiliate a conservative politician, only to be utterly destroyed by her hidden talent? For Pam Bondi, this wasn't just another charity gala. It was the moment she would silence her critics in the most spectacular way possible. The smug performer thought he could embarrass her with a piano challenge. But what happened next? By the end of the story, you'll be on your feet cheering. Here's exactly how it went down. The ballroom buzzed with champagne and whispered gossip as Jake Reynolds, the outspoken liberal rock star, leaned into the microphone with a smirk. "Since we're all about real talent tonight," he sneered, "why don't we see if our esteemed former Attorney General can even play chopsticks?" The crowd froze. All eyes turned to Pam Bondi, seated calmly at the VIP table. Without a word, she set down her glass, stood, and walked toward the grand piano. Jake grinned, certain he'd won, until her fingers touched the keys. What came next left him slack-jawed and the audience in stunned silence. The gala that became legendary. The glittering annual Harmony for Hope Charity Gala was in full swing at Miami's Adrian Arsh Center, where South Florida's elite had gathered to support music education for underprivileged children. The air buzzed with champagne flutes and polite conversation until Jake Reynolds, the outspoken lead singer of progressive rock band The Denters, took the stage for his scheduled performance. Midway through his acoustic set, Jake paused dramatically, his fingers idly plucking guitar strings as he addressed the crowd. "You know, folks," he said with a smirk, "it's funny seeing certain people at an event celebrating musical talent." The camera panned to Pam Bondi, the former Florida Attorney General, sitting calmly at a VIP table. "I mean, what's next? Maybe our esteemed former AG would like to come up here and show us her musical chops." The crowd tittered nervously as Jake gestured to the gleaming Steinway Grand Piano Center stage. "Come on, Pam, play us something. Or is your only talent locking people up?" The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. All eyes turned to Bondi as she dabbed her lips with a napkin, her expression unreadable. Event organizer Maria Lopez gripped her husband's arm, whispering, "This wasn't in the program." What happened next would become the most talked-about moment of the social season. A hidden talent resurfaces. Few in the audience knew that Pamela Jo Bondi had been a child prodigy at the piano bench long before she became a legal powerhouse. Growing up in Temple Terrace, Florida, young Pam had spent every afternoon after school practicing scales under the stern eye of Madame Petrova, a former Juilliard instructor who had fled the Soviet Union. "You play like prosecutor, not artist," the elderly Russian would scold, rapping Pam's knuckles with a ruler when she missed a note. By 16, Pam had won statewide competitions and been offered a scholarship to the Eastman School of Music. But the summer before college, while interning at the state attorney's office, she witnessed firsthand how the legal system failed abuse victims. That fall, she turned down Eastman for Florida State's pre-law program, storing her sheet music in the attic alongside childhood dreams. Jake Reynolds knew none of this as he leaned against the piano with arms crossed, his trademark smirk plastered across his face. The indie rocker had built his brand on punking politicians at his shows, ever since his viral 2016 rant against then-candidate Trump. Tonight's stunt was carefully calculated. His manager had assured him Bondi had no musical background. As the silence stretched, Jake opened his mouth to deliver another barb, when the scrape of Bondi's chair cut through the tension. Every smartphone in the room immediately went vertical as she stood gracefully, smoothing her emerald green gown. "For the children," she said mildly, locking eyes with Jake as she moved toward the stage. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, a murmur building as she ascended the steps. Jake's grin faltered slightly when Bondi didn't pause at the edge of the stage, but walked straight to the piano bench. We were just kidding around, Madam AG," he said into the microphone, suddenly unsure. Bondi simply adjusted the bench height with quiet precision, her posture straightening into perfect conservatory form. The event photographer later said he knew something extraordinary was coming when he saw Bondi's hands hover over the keys. Not tentatively, but with the poised assurance of a concert pianist. The moment that stunned the room. As her fingers descended, the opening arpeggios of Chopin's Fantasy Impromptu cascaded through the hall, one of the most technically demanding pieces in the repertoire. The room collectively gasped as Bondi's hands flew across the keyboard with breathtaking precision. The piece's torrential right-hand runs sparkled like diamond shards, while her left hand maintained perfect rhythmic control. Music professor Dr. Eleanor Chung, sitting in the third row, dropped her program in shock. "That's Opus 66, she whispered. "No amateur plays this." Jake's face underwent a visible metamorphosis, from smug amusement to confusion, then dawning horror as he realized his miscalculation. He gripped the microphone stand like a lifeline as the music built to its passionate climax. When Bondi executed the notoriously difficult cadenza with flawless technique, several conservatory students in the audience actually stood mid-performance. As the final notes faded, the room erupted in a standing ovation. Bondi modestly acknowledged the applause before leaning toward Jake's abandoned microphone. "That was for the music program at Liberty City Elementary," she said, then launched into a joyous ragtime rendition of Stars and Stripes Forever that had even the waitstaff dancing. By morning, #BondiVersusPiano was trending nationally. The viral clip showed Jake's expression morphing from arrogance to abject humiliation in perfect sync with Bondi's escalating virtuosity. Music teachers across Florida reported using the video to demonstrate proper Chopin technique. Jake canceled his next 3 shows, allegedly to focus on new material. When he finally resurfaced, protesters outside his Tampa concert held signs reading, "Real talent has no party. Chopin's smugness." Meanwhile, Bondi received a surprise invitation to perform with the Miami Symphony at their season opener, an offer she accepted on the condition that proceeds benefit inner-city music programs. At the after-party, witnesses reported seeing Jake attempting to apologize near the dessert table. "I didn't know you could," he began before Bondi interrupted with a smile. "That's the point, Jake. There's a lot you don't know." She handed him a brochure for the charity's music fund before being whisked away by admirers. A moment that meant more. The incident became a cultural Rorschach test. Conservatives saw it as poetic justice for elitist liberal condescension. Progressives applauded Bondi's talent while decrying Jake's rudeness. Music educators seized on it to discuss hidden artistic potential in unexpected places. But perhaps the most enduring lesson came from Madame Petrova, now 92, who told the Tampa Bay Times. "Pamela always had 2 gifts, music and justice. She chose to fight for others, but the piano never left her soul." The retired teacher revealed she still receives handwritten notes from her former pupil every Christmas, always signed with a musical clef. As for Jake, his next album included an instrumental track titled Prelude to Humility. Critics noted it was conspicuously piano-heavy.